Well, what's up, everyone? Thanks for being here for the Close Simple Underwriter exclusive webinar. Paul,
Yes.
good to see you via Zoom here. Usually we're in the office together. Today, you're actually on the road, so I'm glad we can still do this, though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the beauty of, doing business in 2024, right? We can be pretty much anywhere and still do an underwriter webinar.
Underwriter webinar. Well, thank you everybody for hopping onto this webinar. Again, the purpose of the Close Simple monthly underwriter webinar is kind of to pull back the curtain a little on what we're working on here at Close Simple, because we know that title agents are always hitting on you for the newest, greatest thing, and they're also looking for you for tips, tricks, just anything. So we really want to take the next 20 minutes and add value to you so that as you meet title agents, you might have one or two new ideas taken from this webinar that you can add value to them. So today, Paul, we're talking about identity verification. We're going to hop into that, but just for everybody on this webinar too, we just came out with our growth and scale report. So if you're an underwriter on this and you did not get one of these, it's an actual magazine. And we highlight, I think, like 10 to 12 people in the title industry. I'd love to send you one of these in the mail. It's an actual magazine in the days of like ebooks. And this is printed. So drop me an email. I'll send you one of these if you'd like, if you didn't get one of these yet. But Paul,
Bill, you source all these stories. I'm sure someone on this webinar has a good one. So if you have a good story, we'll be
yeah.
releasing our third edition, right, at Alta this year.
Yep. This is Brian Pittman, CEO, Independence Title in Texas. And we talk about how he drives 1,480 miles in March to visit office to office between his, like, I don't know how many offices. It's a pretty cool
Love it.
story. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, let's get into
Yeah.
it.
Paul, today we're talking about identity verification, and we got a lot of underwriters on this webinar today. And what I want to do today, a lot of people know Close Simple as, pizza tracker for title, emails, texts. Maybe they know us for the portal that we launched or even e-signing. But now we're kind of getting into a new space here. We're getting the identity verification, getting into some fraud solutions. So maybe would you just start off with this? What makes Close Simple's fraud solutions identity verification different than other providers out there? Let's just go off. I think we got 3 points for what makes us different.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important to really talk about, as we start to get into what we're trying to solve. That's the whole point of the webinar today. Um, Obviously, we're trying to solve this issue of seller identity fraud. And, there's a lot of different providers out there. There's standalone options. There's, vendors in the title industry that are doing some different things. And what we try to do is in kind of these three core areas. Number one is make sure that everything is fully integrated. We know that you're going to have the best success with escrow teams utilizing any software that you put in front of them. If it's integrated, if it's easy, and we really try to automate as much as we can. A lot of our seller identity stuff happens early in the process. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but we can fully automate the once we have, the name of the seller, the email in there, and maybe the phone number, we can actually fully automate it so that the escrow team doesn't have to do anything at all. Everything just automatically runs. And when we can start to put this identity verification, practice in place without anybody doing anything, as soon as the order is opened, we can tell it like in the Close Simple side within 3 seconds if we think there could be some risk involved with that transaction based on who the seller is and what their information is in there. So integration is key, and automating that integration even takes it to the next level. And that's how we try to do all of our seller identity is started off with full automation and fully integrated. So that's probably the first thing. The
Well,
second thing, Bill, we talk about this. Yeah, go ahead.
just really to point it out, though, what you said there, I just want to emphasize this for everybody on the call. It's like everybody else is catching this fraud at the end of the transaction, closer to the closing day. And what you're saying is within 3 seconds, hitting the title production software, starting the order, we're able to, that's what the automation and the integration really is. That's the power.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a great point to make. we are hearing about people closing transactions with fake sellers. That absolutely happens. But I think the vast majority are uncovered in some way throughout the process. But it's not until you've spent all this time doing the commitment, going through the rigmarole, messing around for 30, 45 days, you're expecting the revenue, and then boom, find out it's fraud because someone can't pass something at the final, during the Ron signing or something like that. We want to find out right away, and by being integrated and automating things, it really gives us a leg up to be able to find out right away if there's fraud. The second thing, Bill, we talk about this all the time, but a integrated experience. So we've had a lot of success now rolling out our portal, over 30,000 active users on this thing every month now. And because we're having success driving behaviors of consumers, now it's very nice to start layering in things like identity verification as a task inside our portal. And then it continues to build on this one cohesive customer experience for all of the parties who are involved in the transaction.
The one experience. That's totally. I share this story. I recently closed on my condo. I sold it, and I get these random text messages, random emails like, go here for this thing, go there for that thing. What we're talking about is bringing it together in one platform, which, yeah, that's how we're going to fight fraud. We actually have an ebook that I'm going to email everybody on this webinar after, where we talk just about that, the one cohesive experience to tackle that. Okay, so that was point 2. Give us point 3.
Yeah, point 3, everyone's talking about AI, and this is just a great way for us to start infusing AI into the process. And we utilize a great platform that's very AI forward for our ID verification part of this. So with Close Simple, really it's a 2-step process for identifying this type of fraud. We run and call it an early scan with intrusive ordering, opening an order. We can actually start to sniff out potential fraud right there. And if people aren't passing what early scan, we're automatically giving them the ID verification step as part of this. And so really infusing that AI into that ID verification piece is huge.
For everybody on this webinar, we do have a full fraud solution page on our website. Anybody on this webinar can sign up to get a demo. We'd love to show it off in person, but let's talk about what we're solving with this. How does it work?
Yeah, we're going to talk about 5 things here, Bill. And, I think, we've hit on it a little bit as we've gone through this, but we're really trying to do is early in the process, identify risk. And the way we do that is we look at, again, critical pieces of information, name, phone number, email, and that gives us the ability to start to look at, is there correlation between this information or are we seeing any known fraud as it relates to this particular seller? So what's like, and especially as it relates to their email and phone number. So it's funny, Bill, because we can kind of see in some cases if folks are bad people, and then it's kind of up to our customer to go, well, what we're trying to actually solve here is for people who aren't who they say they are, and bad people can still sell houses, right? So we're trying to solve this idea that it's a synthetic identity. That's what we call it at Close Simple, and that's someone who's posing as someone else. But we do get nice information about, is there known fraud associated with this person early in the process? So that's the first thing, is identifying risk early. That's what we're trying to solve for, and then we can start to really break down, from there, starting to really separate the people who look solid in the process and the people who look fraudulent in the process. So that's the first thing.
I like what you said there. Like, bad people can still buy houses, so we're not
Or
just,
sell them.
yeah. So that's not the issue. We're trying to figure out the fraudulent, like the scammers, the synthetic profiles here, not just this person has had a history. So
Yeah.
okay. Well, what else are we solving with this? And the theme that I'm getting here from you, Paul, though, is customer experience heavy, like it's one experience, and it's happening earlier in the transaction. So
yeah, you got it. That's the second thing. We've hit on it a little bit as we've kind of done the queue up here. This is one of the things that really separates what we're doing from a lot of different providers, and that's this: get it early. Let's not wait till we get to the closing table when we're going through a run or someone saying, oh my goodness, I have to go out of town really fast. Can we use my notary. It's kind of always the same story. I can't come in to do this thing. And again, we want to solve for this issue early in the process. So what we're trying to solve is catching them early within typically, like when you look at the close simple task completion rates on our portal, when we send out a seller information sheet, it typically gets completed on a median of 48 hours. So it's really quick within 2 days, which means, if we can identify someone as potential fraud within 3 seconds, and we can, get them into that ID verification really fast, then you have the opportunity within 2 days to know, are you dealing with someone who's fraudulent? Pretty quick.
Like that. And why are we making title companies, wait till closer to the transaction, all that work they're spending? So that's amazing.
You got it. You got it. So let's go to the third one, shall we? Okay. The third thing, what we're trying to solve for is stress in the escrow staff. So we talked to a lot of title companies who are like, my escrow teams are scared. They're actually like, am I dealing with that next fraudulent seller on this file? And so what we're providing is actually peace of mind in the process for the escrow teams. You know what I'm saying, Bill?
Well, I mean, think of how much work goes into closing a file and the stress. You don't want to be that person that it happened on your watch. That would be, I wouldn't want that. Peace of mind. That's what we're giving with this.
Yep, yep. So, I don't think we need to say much more about that one. At the end of the day, if you can give your team a leg up, give them one less thing to worry about, really big deal, really kind of helps move the needle for them.
Yeah. Let's get to the fourth point here. What's the fourth thing? We got 5 topics that we're really solving with this. And again, thanks for everybody for hopping on this webinar. We will have Q&A at the end of this. If you have any specific questions, you can put them right in the chat here. And as an underwriter, you can always just grab a time on my calendar. I'd love to actually demo this for you. But Paul, what's next? What else are we solving with this?
Yeah, so we got peace of mind for the staff, but visibility for the leadership team into the full seller population and what your risk might look like in terms of the profile of your seller population is a big deal. So along with, making sure that we're catching people early, making sure that we're getting them into an ID verification automatically if they do look risky, we give all of our leadership teams a high level dashboard where you can actually look at, here are all my sellers that are involved in the transaction right now. These are those who look good on the early scan. These are those who are going through the ID verification process. And we did this math, right? So, if we're typically passing about 90% of people in the early scan, which means 10% look a little bit risky. From there, we actually put them through an ID verification process, and we get about 70 to 80% task completion on average across close simple. So when you really break it down, what we're starting to do is actually say, instead of as a leadership team, I'm worried about 100% of my sellers, we're whittling that down to 2 to 3% that you want to be watching as they're going through the process, catching them early. And all of a sudden you can sleep at night knowing that I'm not worried about 100% of people anymore. I'm worried about 2 to 3%. Huge deal. Huge deal. And visibility into the seller population and how risky it looks is really nice for the executive side.
Well, you have the example we were talking about. We had one very large title company in our beta of this a while ago, and the amount of fraud that we were able to catch we say passively. That means the title company is not doing anything except just going through what they're already doing on SoftPro, RamQuest, Resware, and it's happening. They're catching it. Give me some examples of how we're passively catching it and how the management now goes like, thank you, close simple. What does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. And this comes back to that visibility. So when we can let someone know, some of our early customers on this actually have fraud teams, and we've been working with them to refine this process so that we can actually deliver it for the average title company. And it's interesting. One of the markets that we're in, we've been doing this for about 14 months now. So we've been running this process for a long time. Thousands of identities have been running through this. We're catching one in like 600 to 700, like one out of every 600 to 700 orders they open is actually a fraud file, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. When we look at the full, breadth of all of the different markets we're in, it's more like 1 in 1,000, but I still think that's crazy. If you're a large title company, that means you've got 1 to 2, maybe 3 fraudulent sellers in your ecosystem right now. And what we're saying is when we kind of like, this one looks fishy and we hand that off, and then they can kind of run their playbooks, and each title company has a slightly different one. We give all of our customers a starting point on how do you actually then look into sellers. But when they have that visibility, when they have it early, it allows them to go in and actually identify people as frauds. And again, 100% peace of mind then on knowing who might be fraudulent in the seller population.
I like that. Well, let's move on to the last thing that we're really solving with our identity verification. And Paul, again, with this webinar, we're not even hitting on all of our fraud solution package. Like, we're just talking about identity verification here happening at the start of a file. So what's the last thing that we're really solving with this?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is a big one. And as you're out talking with your customers, we have been tailoring solutions across our entire, the life we've been in market for over 7 years now, Bill. Everything is tailored to the title industry. It's not, hey, here's a product that you can use. It's, again, integrated. It's designed for the types of interactions that we know that title companies have with their customers all the time. And so this is, we understand what the behaviors of the realtors, the buyers, the sellers, the lenders, and that's really driven a lot of this work that we've been doing to roll out these features, to roll out pilots, to continue to refine this alongside really, really great title books. So everything we do is tailored, and I think, like, it's really important that we're not just trying to shoehorn tech products into the into this experience, but we really try to find those that are tailored to the title industry.
Well, in tailoring, there might be like a part B to that also. Everything we do is white labeled to the title company as well. It's not just made for the for the title industry. That's what Close Simple does. But we make the title company, the escrow company, we make them look like rock stars. That's one of the cool things that we
Yeah.
get from the title company.
Yeah, it's interesting. We run into in some markets people going, well, are these consumers going to be offended that we're asking them to do this ID verification? But when, again, it's packaged up to be part of the process, they're going, oh, this is just what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And they actually, like, we really don't hear any pushback at all on people like being asked to go through this process. We really don't hear any pushback from realtors. It's pretty cool to see. And again, because it's designed specifically for this process for title companies.
I like it. Well, Paul, we're coming up here to the end of the webinar. We always like to start on time, end on time. Everybody on here has things they got to get done. But just the quick recap again, we're helping identify, we're catching early, like that's the other thing. We're catching it early, not at the end of the transaction. We're providing peace of mind for the staff. We're really providing visibility for the management and tailored solution. Like, that's really what we're looking at. So as people look at our site, and if you come across a title agent that's looking for an identity verification solution, we would love to set up a demo. We can set up a personalized demo where we can show that title company's logo actually in it and everything. Like, it's pretty sick. But Paul, thanks for taking a few minutes here today talking about this. Everybody on this webinar, if you have a question, put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to be following up after this webinar with each of you also, and I'm going to be sending 2 documents, 2 PDFs. One is our cohesive brand experience idea, how that changes the security aspect of a title company. If you can provide one experience, how is that going to help security? And the second is just 3 questions that you could actually ask a title company about their identity verification solution. We put this nice little thing together to kind of be a conversation starter. But Paul, thanks so much for being here. I know you're on the road today. We got you on the road, and it's just awesome that we can still do these webinars like this.
Yeah, appreciate it, Bill. Thanks everybody for hopping on. And again, reach out to Bill if you have questions. And then I think we're going to hang on for a little bit here, but maybe we'll wrap the webinar and then we can get to some questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody.